Well, take the case of William Ijeh, one of the founders of what he hoped would be Nigeria's first airborne emergency medical service. He imagined a scenario where helicopters and air ambulances provide swift medical emergency and medical-related transport for people in distress all across Nigeria. It was supposed to be a huge step forward in a country with a mass vulnerability problem when it comes to healthcare. Well, such a service is yet to materialize, and for more on this, I'm joined now in the studio by William Ijeh, one of the founders of Emergency Air Medical Services Nigeria. Mr. Ijeh used to be a consultant for Swiss Air and a senior staff with the UN agency responsible for telecommunications and information technology. Thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you very much, Charles, for having me here.
Let me start by asking you briefly to tell us what gaps in Nigeria's current emergency response system motivated you to pursue an airborne emergency service.
I think looking at the landscape, Nigerian landscape, emergency landscape, it's virtually empty. And the few actors, more or less what we could consider as sort of brokers, and there's no real emergency operational entity in Nigeria that will take and be able to airlift patients or, provide rescue response, immediate rescue response.
Right, so basically what you've got are middlemen who sort of act as in-betweeners. If you contact them, then they'll try and hire an aircraft or something in order to come and get the job done.
Exactly, and the issue of emergency is a time-bound issue where the unfortunate incident of the case of Anthony Joshua and others that are not known is just a question of an issue of time, and you need immediate and urgent response within minutes and not hours.
Right, and just in practical terms, although it seems fairly obvious, how would an airborne emergency service change response times and patient outcomes compared to existing ground-based systems right now?
Well, there's an issue of speed. I mean, like I said, time. If you take an example of the cardiac arrest, for example, the medical sector consider that they said the first hour is the golden hour. And if there's no response, then the chances of that person surviving, it's limited. So what we want to provide, or what we're working to be able to provide to Nigerians, is to be able to give them that quick and immediate response in terms of rescue and be able to get them to the hospital where they will be treated, taken care of, and given full attention. I mean, you find people bleeding. People bleed to death on the highway and in places where there are incidents.
I mean, have you spoken to the current Minister of Health about all of this? Because, I mean, every day my WhatsApp gets lots of messages from the Ministry of Health, presenting him as a very forward-thinking sort of Minister of Health.
We have not met the current Minister of Health. However, we've been in contact with some people who work in there and who consider this particular aspect as one of the areas that is not of utmost importance.
Right.
Yeah, it's not a priority area, but we're looking forward to meeting the minister to be able to discuss this at length with him.
Now, funding institutions often acknowledge the need for critical emergency services, but they still view Nigeria, I mean, I'm talking about international funding institutions, they view Nigeria as a difficult operating environment. How has this perception affected your efforts to raise capital?
Well, it has greatly affected us. I mean, I'll put it, this is one of the major areas where we're looking for solutions to be able to tackle this. As I'm speaking to you, we have 2 offers for 2 medical helicopters, but international institutions wouldn't touch them. As soon as you mention Nigeria, they would, they regard Nigeria as a high-risk country, and it is difficult for us to overcome that. So what we're seeking is to be able to get government support.
Right. So you're basically looking for domestic funding now.
Domestic funding or domestic support, which
Right.
will probably be in form of guarantee, in form of, way of providing that
Right.
support, that they consider this to be one of the critical services required.
Well, what
in
about
Nigeria.
the states? I mean, some of these states, they're getting much more money now. One of their priorities is or ought to be health care. What are they saying to you?
It's still the same, the same issues they will tell you. I mean, when you meet the states, they will tend to, demonstrate that they have more difficult or more critical areas. Of course, we don't know what the critical areas are, but they don't have enough funding to be able to go into such a project. But it's a project that is not. It's not luxury. This is a critical project that has to do with people's lives, and there's no luxury in it.
I suppose the important question for a lot of people is, how do you balance the social value of an airborne emergency service with the commercial realities investors are concerned about? Because from the point of view of governments, I mean, it's more of a social value. In other words, we're going to have to find money when we haven't even got ambulances on the road to start talking about air ambulances and helicopters. You see what I mean?
Yes, I do understand that, and that's why we've created a model that will combine the ground ambulances and the air ambulances, helicopters, in order to have a sort of a full-scale operational system that will cover both air and ground, because there are difficult places where you cannot go in with helicopters, then we'll go in with, with the ground ambulances, and those are the areas that what we've done. We've worked on that to be able to cover. It's a full cycle.
Right. So what funding or revenue models do you believe could make airborne emergency services sustainable in Nigeria?
Well, it will be based on subscription, but it's going to be a modest and affordable subscription rate for people to be able to participate.
Right.
What we're looking at is not to have the government to bear the entire burden, but also for people to participate. So it's going to be more of a win-win situation for everyone, but we have to make it affordable and accessible.
Yeah, but when you say people participate, well, what do you mean? You mean like in an insurance scheme or something?
No, it's going to be, it won't be really insurance, but it's something that we try to put a little bit on terms of subscription because of all the implications with the insurance scheme.
Well, because, I mean, if somebody is healthy or has no idea that they're going to have a heart attack tomorrow, I mean, why would they join a subscription thing? I mean, when they're worrying about sort of their other bills and so on, you say to them, oh, no, we've got this idea about an air ambulance thing, and just in case you're going somewhere and your heart sort of, your ticker goes, I mean, maybe you want to subscribe to an air ambulance thing. I mean, that seems like something that most people would not be sort of interested in doing, or would not be able to afford to do.
I think it's a question of it. It's an issue of education, and when I mean education, is some sort of health education, and
right.
Talking to them about the importance, because if you calculate what people pay for some sort of luxury subscription that they have today in comparison to what you pay for your health and the value of your health and compared to that luxury, then you see where the gap is.
Yeah, but you only assess the value of your health when you become unhealthy. I mean, if you're healthy and you're walking around, you're not thinking about the fact that you may well become unhealthy. You see what I mean? That's why people have things like insurance through their offices and so on. I mean, it sounds like it's something that will need to be subsidized. And in that regard, what role should the government play in reducing investment risk in this kind of life-saving emergency infrastructure?
I think what the government ideally should be, their role should be to sort of, you use the word subsidize, but I would rather translate it differently, to be able to provide us the necessary support to build this system within the country.
But why don't you get a fleet of ambulances on the road? I mean, we're not seeing that many of them. I mean, if somebody, is in an accident, you're not going to see ambulances blaring on the road. Talk less of a helicopter. I mean, and with a helicopter, you'd have to worry about sort of local capacity building, training pilots, paramedics, medical staff, and all the rest of it who have to get there and do. I mean, it just sounds very complicated.
It is not complicated. It's this is a very critical question, which I will give you the answer. The ground ambulances will also require paramedics and medical doctors.
Right.
So the same people that you're having in the ground ambulances are going to be the same staff that you have in the helicopter ambulance. So the training is literally going to be the same. There are certain slight differences in terms of procedure because of the fact that you have to airlift somebody, but it's, I would say 80% is just basically the same, where you need paramedics, you need nurses, you need medical doctors to be able to operate the ground ambulance and the helicopter ambulance. So if government will be able to come in, and our doors are open. We're prepared to work in collaboration with the government to get this off the ground. But the idea is to provide services to the population, the Nigerian population. So that's what we're looking at.
Well, we hope it goes well, because broadly speaking, it is obviously a good idea. I want to thank you very much indeed for coming in. William Ijeh is one of the founders of Emergency Air Medical Services Nigeria. Thank you very much indeed.
Yeah, thank you, Charles. And again, like I said,
we have to go.
Yeah, we're inviting everybody.
Yeah.